Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California. This is a Headache Soul production. Welcome to Just the Tip-Sters, America's favorite true crime podcast, and I'm your host, Melissa Morgan. My beautiful and talented co-host, Joshua Bevan, is here today. Say hi.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
You are always had. So much of the having. So I just want to launch right into all the nasty emails I got this week. I didn't actually.
Oh, no.
The only one I got was from Suzanne, who's listening to old episodes and said that candy corn is delicious because I called it the devil's earwax. So Suzanne, you can go fuck yourself. No, I'm kidding. I love her. She is actually a very good friend, but she had a long drive and was listening to old episodes to catch up. And Suzanne is a lovely human being. And she had her daughter and herself send me a video that said, candy corn is delicious.
Delicious candy
it's
corn
not.
is. Okay.
It's not.
Did they actually eat it in the thing, or were they pretending to love it?
No, they love it. They just didn't have any, it's seasonal. You can't get it. Or maybe you can get it all year round.
I don't even know.
Why would you?
Yeah.
Why would you waste your money and your colon on something so terrible?
Oh, boy.
So terrible. So I want to say thank you to those of you who heard last week's episode and didn't block me. I thought I was going to get so much pushback because of the religious nature, and it wasn't even religious. It was forensic.
Sure.
But every person who's commented has said something nice. Like, I really enjoyed this episode. So
Excellent. Good.
yeah. And one of the things I love about YouTube is that you can just fucking delete people's comments. So when you listen on YouTube, which I think is hilarious, and it took me several years before I even considered a YouTube channel because I'm like, why? It's visual. But it's just our logo and the audio.
Yeah.
And people, anyway, this weirdo dude commented on an episode we did like 5 or 6 weeks ago, and he just said, I will never listen to this podcast again. No reason why.
Okay. Well,
I'm like, well, thank you, sir.
Welcome and sayonara.
Right. Goodbye. Please do not let the screen door hit you where the good Lord split you. And it wasn't on the religious one. It was on, something completely different. So I don't know. So when you know someone, you get to know someone a little more and you spend more time with them, you find out a lot of very interesting things about them. Like, I would imagine, being the father of 3 boys, Joshua has had his hands in like poop and vomit and a lot of stuff.
You mean like today?
Not today.
Yeah.
I hope not today. In the past.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But what's so amazing to me is that last week I thought I had a hair in my lip gloss.
Oh, no.
And Joshua was having a fucking seizure and I didn't even know what was happening. And then he explained later that one hair, and then he like shook violently, like he was one hair.
Full on Kramer style.
Yeah, he was
just get it.
Yeah. And
I just get it.
It was stuck on my ring.
God,
it was stuck on my ring, and I thought it was on my lip gloss, and I was trying to pull it off. And I don't think you Tipsters heard, except Joshua. I was like, does he need me to put a spoon on his tongue because he's going to swallow it? This is terrible. And then he explained that one single hair. I feel like you could chase him around the backyard with one hair.
No. Yeah, I can handle all kinds of bodily fluids, blood, even like I'm gory stuff. I mean, I watch zombie stuff all the time, and all this. It's fun.
And you have 3 sons,
but one hair. Detached hairs, like
that's going to be my new stripper name. Detached hairs,
and that's it, and it's detached too. Like I love women with long hair. Like that's amazing and sensual and like awesome. The second that it's gone is like,
your eye actually twitches when you talk about it. You're like,
I didn't realize we were going this way this morning.
Well, it's the element of surprise that makes me happy. Yeah. Now I've ruined the day for you.
God. Oh.
Yeah. One detached hair.
Oh no.
Yeah. Now he's shaking again. No. Yeah. You're like, the Pink Panther's boss when he's just one eye just violently twitching. Okay, so with that, how's your testicles?
Oh boy. Speaking of detaching hair, 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year from our friends at Manscaped. The ball has officially dropped, but that doesn't mean that you have to drop the ball on your balls in 2023.
Don't drop the balls, gentlemen. Don't drop the balls.
Oh, boy. Whether you had a New Year's kiss or not, the leaders at Below the Waist Grooming have you covered for your much-needed resolution bringing sexy back. Join the 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and enter the code JUSTTHETIP for 20% off and free shipping.
Yay!
Oh,
Yay! And testicles are always sexy, with or without hair, but without is nice too.
Always sexy. Thank you, Manscaped.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we were going to take a break, and because other podcasts take off over the holidays, but we here at Just the Tip-Sters Industries, I never give Joshua a break, but there's too much constantly. Yeah, really. Did you notice the new time clock when you walked
when
in?
I punched in? Yeah, it was.
It's digital.
It's digital now. It's weird. I missed the little ka-chunk.
Yeah, you do. That's how you know the day's begun. Yeah. So there was just too much going on this week. So I thought, you know what? Let's do this. And I wanted to wait until more came out, but it's too important and interesting of a conversation. So we're going to talk about what happened this week with the Idaho 4, because there's a lot of information that came out. So I haven't really even told many people in my life, but I had an interview this week with the LA County Sheriff's Department for a position, the one I had been trying to get for like 6 months.
Right.
And what I think happens is they get a new budget in January so they can hire people.
Oh, okay.
That's sort of what I think.
So they're calling interviews now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was interesting. It's pretty far away from my house. I don't know, that I want it, but I'll see if I even, am offered. But what was so interesting when I walked in is that I felt like they said, bring a resume, and I brought 2 resumes and 2 copies of some recommendation letters I got from detectives.
Nice. Beautiful recommendation letters.
They really, I'm extremely blessed. Couldn't ask for anything better. And they, just remarkable. So there was a young deputy who was very sweet, and I felt like I was being good copped, bad copped.
It was an interrogation.
A little bit. No, it's in a conference room. And my beloved Detective Rich said, all right, look, if the chair's in the corner, pull it up to the table. You're not being interrogated. I was like, oh, okay. He was telling me how to do everything. He gave me some tips the night before. And no, there was like 6 chairs around a conference table.
Oh, good.
So the sergeant was sitting on one side, and then the young deputy sat at the head of the table, and I sat on the other side across from the sergeant. And it was about a half an hour interview. And the young sergeant was like very open and friendly, and, almost like a little childlike because of the podcast. He was like fascinated by the podcast.
Oh, cool.
And the sergeant was just sort of like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? If this situation happens, how would you handle this? He was like a black and white, by the book kind of guy. So when I sit down, the young deputy says, oh, a podcast. Are you one of those sleuths? And your friend Melissa cannot hold her tongue. So I start off my interview by saying, no, those people are assholes.
Oh, jeez.
I know. So... And then I say, pardon my language. And they're like, that's okay. And he is trying to remember. He goes, but there was that one documentary, those people. And I go, don't F with cats. Because that's the one everyone mentions. And I said F, not don't fuck with cats, which is the name of the documentary. And they were remarkable internet sleuths who I think I mentioned them last week or the week before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
they, found with street signs and different markers, someone, and got him, they found him, and he was high. It's remarkable. And that's different than the thousands of people who sit and hypothesize and know nothing, know nothing. And that's the point that we're going to talk about today, is the people that know nothing and yet feel like they have, and you always have the right to comment. One of my favorite things is from Patton Oswalt is he said, we have to respect everyone's, beliefs. And he goes, no, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't.
Right.
You can listen to them and, acknowledge them, but you don't have to respect them.
Yeah.
He was like, I have an uncle who swears that, Bigfoot's real. We all think he's ridiculous.
Right.
So yeah, I don't have to respect your opinion about someone's case.
Sure.
When you don't know jack shit, but it's a theory. You can have it. You can put it online. I don't care.
Sure.
What started, this is our 6th year. What started 6 years ago as a 12-year-old boy dick joke with just the Tip-Sters has become something I'm really proud of.
As you should be.
And it's because of
amazing.
The Tip-Sters.
Yeah.
They have actually called or emailed detectives with information that has been helpful.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful. I don't feel like my listeners are assholes. I don't, they can have great, oh no, what do you want to say?
No.
You want to say?
No.
Okay.
No, the assholes are the ones who leave after one episode. It's fine.
Oh yeah. Bye. I don't know how many he listened to, but that one and I'll tell you what it was later, but it was like, why was that one your trigger, mister? But whatever. So I am very proud of the people who listen to this and who call in and email because you make a difference. An example, I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but Tipster Debbie tagged me in a Facebook post and for a missing man in the Antelope Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And the original poster said, if you have any connections with the LA County Sheriff's Department Homicide Bureau, this case needs to be, brought back up to awareness. And I was like, well, it's your lucky day.
Nice.
I do. My conversation with Rich this week, and I had a couple of them, I think opened his eyes, and which I didn't mean to do. I thought it was going to go in the opposite direction. So he's like, I don't know why, the person of interest, you told me the person of interest is probably dead. And I said, right. And he goes, well, then the case isn't going to be solved. And I go, no, that's not why I do this. If a man has been missing and presumed dead for 40 years and his family is still looking for him, we need to find where he is.
Right.
And I don't care if the person of interest is dead.
Right.
Somebody might know something. And if the person of interest is dead, they might now be willing to talk.
Right. Right.
But they're probably not going to talk on their own volition. You might have to knock on a door.
You got to actually ask a question.
Yeah. So that's why. And he was like, oh, okay. Well, now that you explain it that way, I'm on board.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Good. See?
Who thinks I could teach the master something, So he calls me Grasshopper. So
that's very appropriate. Yeah. I like it.
Because I have skinny ankles. Because I make weird noises. Okay. Wait, you want to say something so bad? You want to say because I'm green?
Because you creep a lot of people out.
Not like hair. Not like detached hair. I'm just going to bring that up. I'm going to re-traumatize you.
Make me have a visual every time.
I am going to re-traumatize you.
Oh, God.
Okay, so what? Get it out of your head. Erase. So what prompted this episode is my conversation with Rich, who intimated to me he's very angry at the people that maligned the Moscow, Idaho police.
Oh, sure.
And when you hear what was released this week, you'll understand why. I have always accused him of potentially, not letting go of the thin blue line, but he's not that guy. He will support, his brothers, but he is also maybe not out loud, but will let you know if somebody doesn't do a good job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's
not
realistic.
Like everybody.
Sure.
Yeah. Not everybody is perfect. He doesn't pull that shit. So, but he said something that made me sit up straight. He said, the press and the public don't need to know. They don't need to know. And I was like, now wait a minute. Because what happened this week is pretty big.
All right.
The press digs, and please don't think podcasts are the press. People have referred to me as the press, and I'm not the press. I don't put anything out to press. I create content, and it's never to get in the middle of a case or potentially damage a case that can still go to court. It's to talk about, I'm going to say it's to talk about people's stories.
Right.
That's how I'm going to say it. So I didn't agree with him that the public and the press don't need to know everything, but I get it's just semantics. They don't need to know everything.
Sure.
They don't. And I'll tell you what happened this week is an affidavit was released about Brian Kohberger and the murders of the Idaho Four. And while some is redacted, there's a lot of information in there.
Okay. From him, from the interviews with him, or
it's the affidavit of how to get him arrested that the detective signed to get an arrest warrant. And there was a lot that went into it. Yeah.
Okay. So this is what the detectives are submitting to a judge in order to try and
absolutely
pursue this. Okay.
And there's a lot of information in there. And there's one piece of information that Rich, I think it chapped his ass more than anything. And
okay.
I get it. And in this instance, I thought, you know what, the public doesn't need to know everything.
Is that usually released in the middle of the case?
No.
Okay.
And I wouldn't tell you you're right. I feel like what happened, 4 beautiful young people were murdered in a small town.
Okay.
And I still don't understand why one case gets attention and others don't. I don't. When one person is murdered, that is the importance right there. Yeah. It's maybe because they're young and beautiful. I don't know. Maybe because it's a small town that hadn't had a murder in like 7 years or something. I don't. Wow, okay. But this case and, many others, Gabby Petito, capture America's attention, maybe even the world. And it's, talked about and ruminated on, and internet sleuths give their opinions and all of that shit. So yeah, I gave my opinion last week. Not a whole lot because I didn't know a lot. And it was all, and I said, this is just my, assumption. Mm-hmm. And you never want to make an assumption. But what I was most pissed off about is that Brian Kohberger ruined it for everyone who wanted to study criminology. Honestly, that's what really pissed me off. Sure. I mean, other than the fact that he murdered 4 people, well, that's the top. That, yeah, the top rung. Second rung down is, don't do that, buddy. So weird. Don't do. God. And people came at Catherine Ramsland, who is sort of a famous criminologist, and he studied under her. Okay. I think like online, really, but there's too much to talk about here, but we're going to have to try and talk about it. So you can find the affidavit everywhere if you haven't already. The New York Times, you can find it online. I'm going to talk about, before we talk about that, I'm going to talk about a case that Rich told me about. I reminded him of something when I was trying to convince him to talk about the case in the Antelope Valley. Okay. That he was like, he's a detective. And in his mind, it's not going to be solved because the person of interest who we're pretty sure did it is gone.
Sure.
I don't think that way because I'm not a detective.
Right.
So he said this case with his partner, he said he was very impressed with her work because she tracked down telephone records and really it was a missing woman. And he said, from the minute we interviewed the female roommate, we knew her whole entire story stunk. And she was missing. There was a sighting of her in San Bernardino County. We went there and handed out flyers, and what happened was an anonymous tipster called and said she's buried under the house.
Nice.
And he goes, and we found her under the house. There is an instance where an anonymous tipster really helped to solve a case.
Sure.
Could an anonymous tipster show up with a shovel and, get access? Probably not. But, you call and say, hey, this happened. I know where she is. That's a big help.
Sure.
So that's why I'm very proud of you, Tipsters. One of the things that happened this week was Carrie Rawson, who is a great writer, and she has the unfortunate lineage of being the BTK's daughter, Dennis Rader's daughter.
Oh, okay.
So Carrie, Dennis Rader had a son and a daughter, and Carrie was a writer before, unfortunately, for her. She was in college, and the police in Kansas used a sample from the medical facility at her college to connect the DNA to her father.
For her father.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was from a pap smear. I can't imagine anything more embarrassing.
Wow.
And she is a lovely human who has had a life foisted on her that she did not ask for. So she came out with an article, I think it was Newsweek. Yeah, it was Newsweek this week. And she says, we need to be supportive and not jump to conclusions and respect his family's right to privacy or their right to talk because they have both.
Referring to Brian Kohberger's family. Okay.
They have both rights.
Okay.
To talk and to not talk.
Absolutely.
And if anybody knows, it's, it's her. And, his parents released a statement that says there are no words that can adequately express the sadness we feel, and we pray each day for them. We will continue to let the legal process unfold, and as a family, we will love and support our son and brother. We have fully cooperated with law enforcement agencies in an attempt to seek the truth and promote his presumption of innocence. Yeah. Presumption of innocence. That's the best thing they can say.
Totally. Absolutely. I mean, that's where we're at right now.
Right. That's where we have to be to let the justice system work, and hopefully it works.
Absolutely.
Which also means people don't have to know everything. So anyway, Carrie says it's extremely rough when a family is innocent. In our case, my mom lost her husband, I lost my father, and my brother lost his father. In this case, the Kohbergers have lost their son in pretty much any way you can imagine losing somebody other than that they're dead.
Yeah, wow.
She's such a great writer.
Yeah.
She's such a great writer. It's been almost 18 years since my father was arrested, and people still accuse my mother of having hid things about my father. There's still those questions on social media. What are they hiding? What did they not say? How did they not know these things were hidden in their house?
Man.
She said relatives of offenders often struggle with guilt. Like, what did I miss?
Sure.
Especially as a parent, you want your kids to turn out okay and be successful and productive. I do believe that if you get the right kind of help for these predators or people that are committing these crimes, that sometimes you can prevent them, but sometimes you cannot.
I struggle with that because you can't help somebody who doesn't want to be helped. You can't heal somebody. So even if you spotted it, even if you saw the thing, which I'm guessing that Carrie and her mother didn't see it in the father, but even if they had,
right,
they couldn't force him to heal himself around it,
right,
and that's where the Kohbergers are right now.
Yeah.
They're in this like, wait, why didn't
What
we
did we
see
miss?
this? What did we miss? And maybe they didn't miss anything.
Right.
He's still presumed innocent.
Yeah, we can go with that. Maybe somebody borrowed his knife.
Maybe he's just a very weird professor.
He is. He was a teaching assistant. You're right. And everyone said he was a really harsh grader.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. Carrie said it's important for the general public to realize that there's real people involved here.
Yeah.
Real families that have lost young people. They'll be grieving this the rest of their lives. Wow. And then Kohberger's family has lost a son and have to deal with the ramifications of what he's done for the rest of their lives. I understand how things become sensationalized or become entertainment. There's real people here that are daily being affected by this and will be for a long time. And Carrie said that her stomach turned when she found out that Brian was studying with Catherine Ramsland. And I was like, Wonder why that would bother her. But I didn't remember. Catherine Ramsland wrote a book about her father.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, Confessions of a Serial Killer. So I feel bad for her, and I followed her on, I guess, Twitter years ago because she's a good writer.
Yeah.
And she is a good, kind person.
Yeah.
She's been through a whole lot of shit. She has some health issues. She, was married. She has 2 kids. Her and her husband have subsequently divorced, but they were together through the whole thing. It just happened recently. So they were together through the whole thing with her father. I mean, I think he was probably a huge source of support at the time.
Wow.
So, yeah, if you find anything about Carrie Rawson, I suggest you read it that she's written because she's a great writer. So this is pretty lengthy, but the affidavit and only part of it was, released. But I mean, only part of it was redacted. Only part of it was redacted.
Got it.
So here we go. Exhibit A. The below information is provided by Brett Payne, who is a duly appointed, qualified, and acting peace officer within the county of Latah, state of Idaho. Brett Payne is employed by Moscow Police Department in the official capacity or position of a corporal. He has been trained and qualified peace officer for approximately 4 years. CPL Payne is being assisted by members of the Idaho State Police and the agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So please know, something I said, I think, in my interview that impressed them is, and it was just a throwaway line, I said, it takes a village.
Sure.
And they both stopped and said, oh, yeah. Like, oh, she gets it.
Cool. Good.
And I do. It takes a village.
Totally.
But detectives solve cases. Podcasts don't solve cases.
Absolutely.
So on November 13th of 2022 at approximately 4 p.m., Moscow Police Department Sergeant Blaker and I responded to 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho. Thereafter, the King Road residence is how it's referred to assist with scene security and processing of a crime scene associated with 4 homicides. Upon our arrival, the forensic team on scene was preparing to begin processing the scene. One of the initial responding officers to the incident advised he would walk me through the scene. They entered the residence on the north side of the building, walked to the second floor. Officer Smith directed me down the hallway to the west bedroom on the second floor, which I later learned through Xana's driver's license and other personal belongings was her room. Based on numerous interviews conducted by Moscow Police Department officers, as well as a review of any evidence, I've learned the following. On the evening of November 12th, 2022, 2 of the girls are seen at the Sigma Chi house on the University of Idaho campus from approximately 9 p.m. on November 12th to 12 to 1:45, sometime in that time on November 13th. It's also estimated that approximately 1:45, 2 of the victims returned to the King Road residence, and also that the male did not live at the residence, but he was a guest he was the boyfriend of one of the girls. Okay. Yeah. So the other 2 are at a local bar, and they can be seen on video footage by the Corner Club. I guess that's the name of the bar. Between 10 p.m. on November 12th and 1:30 on November 13th. At approximately 1:30, they can be seen on video at a local food vendor. I remember that, the video of them at the grub truck, which was so weird. I think it was like Thai food. Who eats Thai food at like 1:30 in the morning?
I'm not a big Thai food fan in general, but I feel like it's a drunk food.
Is it drunk food?
I think
okay.
It's because there's a lot of flavors.
Like Denny's
I think you're like, you're kind of numbed with alcohol. So you're like, oh yeah, let's power down some Thai food.
I got you. The Grub Truck live streams video from their food truck, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
On the streaming platform Twitch, which is available for public viewing on their website. The video was captured by law enforcement, so they got a hold of that.
Sure.
A private party reported that he provided a ride to the 2 girls at approximately 1:56 from downtown Moscow in front of the grub truck to their home on Kings Road. The occupants of the King Road residence were at home by 2 a.m. and asleep, or at least in their rooms, by 4 a.m. This is with the exception of one roommate who received a DoorDash order at the residence at approximately 4 a.m.
Oh, wow.
Law enforcement identified the DoorDash delivery driver who reported this information. One of the roommates said they saw a male, and she did not recognize the male, and this led investigators to believe that the murderer had left the scene. So he was there approximately 4 a.m., but was not the DoorDash delivery guy. A combination of statements to law enforcement, reviews of forensic downloads of records, phones, video of a suspect's car, as described below, leads investigators to believe the homicides occurred between 4 a.m. and 4:25. During the processing of the crime scene, investigators found a latent shoe print. This was located during the second processing of the crime scene by the forensic team, first using a presumptive blood test and then amino black, a protein stain that detects the presence of cellular material. The detected shoe print showed a diamond-shaped pattern similar to the pattern of a Vans type.
Nice.
You knew.
Oh, man.
You knew.
I pictured a bloody Vans print in my head right when you said
kidding?
it. No, that like...
Wow. Okay, that's spooky.
I should go do training.
You should. This shoe print was just outside the door of one of the victim's bedrooms located on the second floor. This is consistent with the statement regarding the suspect's path of travel. As part of the investigation, an extensive search, commonly referred to in law enforcement as a video canvass, was conducted in the area of the King Road residence. This video canvass was to obtain any footage from the early morning hours of November 13th. So they, asked surrounding neighbors in an effort to locate the suspect or suspect's vehicle traveling to or leaving from the King Road evidence. This video canvass resulted in the collection of numerous surveillance videos in the area from both residential and business addresses. I have reviewed numerous videos that were collected and have had conversations with the other Moscow Police Department officers, ISP, Idaho State Police detectives, and FBI agents that are similarly reviewing the footage that was obtained. A review of camera footage indicated that a white sedan hereafter, suspect vehicle 1, was observed traveling westbound in the 700 block of Indian Hills Drive. Both Pullman and Moscow are small college towns, and people commonly travel back and forth between them.
Okay.
Law enforcement officers provided video footage of suspect 1 to forensics examiners with the Federal Bureau of Investigation that regularly utilize surveillance footage to identify the year, make, and model of an unknown vehicle that is observed by one or more cameras during the commission of a criminal offense. The forensics examiner has approximately 35 years of law enforcement experience, 12 years at the FBI. His specific training includes identifying unique characteristics of vehicles and uses a database that gives visual clues of vehicles across states to identify differences between vehicles. After reviewing the numerous observations of suspect vehicle 1, the forensics examiner initially believed that the suspect vehicle was a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. Upon further review, he indicated it could also be a 2011 to 2016. As a result, investigators reviewing information in possession of the vehicle have, found out that I think it's a 2015 or 2016 white Hyundai Elantra. Investigators were given access to video footage on Washington State University campus, which in Pullman, Washington, which is where Brian Kohberger went to school. A review of that video indicated that at approximately 2:44 a.m. on November 13th, a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of the white Elantra known as suspect vehicle 1, was observed on WSU surveillance cameras traveling north on Southeast Nevada Street at Northeast Stadium Way. At approximately 2:53, a white sedan, which is consistent with the description of the white Elantra, was observed traveling southeast on Nevada Street toward State Route 270. Going to Moscow, Idaho.
Oh, wow. Okay.
On November 25th, 2022, Moscow Police Department asked area law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout for a white Hyundai Elantra in the area. On November 29th of 2022, at approximately 12:28 a.m., Washington State University police officer Daniel Tiengo queried white Elantras registered at WSU. As a result of that query, he located a 2015 white Elantra with a Pennsylvania license plate. The vehicle was registered to Brian Kohberger, hereafter referred to as Kohberger. And then there's a lot that's residing at, we already know now, but it's all redacted. Is approximately 3/4 of a mile from the intersection of Stadium Way, which is where the camera had picked up the white.
That was the last. Okay.
Mm-hmm. The same day, at approximately 12:58 a.m., WSU officer Curtis Whitman was looking for a white Hyundai Elantra and located the 2015 white Hyundai Elantra at the Pullman parking lot in the apartment complex that houses WSU students. I know that Idaho and Washington require front and back license plates to be displayed. Investigators believe that Kohberger is still driving the 2015 white Elantra because his vehicle was captured on December 13th by a license plate reader in Loma, Colorado. Kohberger's Elantra was then queried on December 15th by law enforcement in Hancock County, Indiana. This is that video footage we've seen.
Oh, with
his dad.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The body cam video. Oh, he was stopped. His dad flew to Washington, and they drove across the country for Christmas break for him to go back to Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And
he got stopped.
Yeah.
Okay.
One time on a regular stop and one time because they asked them to stop him.
Okay.
To see if there were cuts on his hands.
Oh, wow.
And there were.
Yeah.
Kohberger's Elantra was then queried on December 15th, 2022 by law enforcement in Hancock County, Indiana. On December 16th, 2022 at approximately 2:26, surveillance video showed Kohberger's Elantra in Albrightville, Pennsylvania. The sole occupant of the vehicle was a white male whose description was consistent with Kohberger. His family lives in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. Learned through a search and local tool database. Based on the information provided on the WSU website, Kohberger is currently a PhD student in criminology at Washington State University. Pursuant to records provided by a member of the interview panel for Pullman Police Department, we learned that Kohberger's past education included undergraduate degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics. Well, he fucked up.
Yeah.
He didn't pay attention in those classes at all because he left shit everywhere.
Yeah.
These records also show Kohberger wrote an essay when he applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in the fall of 2022. Kohberger wrote in his essay he had interest in assisting rural law enforcement agencies with how to better collect and analyze the technological data in public safety operations.
Wow.
Kohberger also posted a Reddit survey, which can be found in an open source internet search. Everyone's found it. The survey asked for participants to provide information to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime.
Wow.
As part of the investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine cellular devices that utilize cellular towers in close proximity to King Road. These records include historical cell location. He had been stalking them since June of 2022.
Oh my gosh.
After receiving this information, I consulted with an FBI special agent that is certified as a member of the cellular analysis team. From the information provided, I was able to determine estimated locations for the phone ending in 8458 from November 12th to November 13th, the time period authorized by the court. The phone was using at 2:42 a.m. on November 13th. The phone was utilizing cellular resources that provide coverage to hereafter the Kohberger residence. At approximately 2:47, the phone utilized cellular resources that provide coverage southeast of the Kohberger residence. Mm-hmm. So I guess they have to go like mile by mile. The phone stops reporting to the network, which is consistent with either the phone being in an area without cellular coverage or putting the phone into airplane mode or disabling the network with the phone being turned off.
Okay. So he put it in airplane mode before he...
That's the only thing he did right, which makes him look even more guilty.
Sure, absolutely.
The exact time that, is fucking stupid. The phone does not report to the network again until approximately 4:48, at which it utilized cellular resources that provide coverage to Idaho State Highway 95. So showing that he had gone to Moscow. And turned his phone off.
Phone back on.
And then turned his phone. Between 4:50 and 5:26, the phone utilizes cellular resources that are consistent with the phone traveling south on Idaho State Highway 95 and then traveling westwards. Investigators found that the phone did connect to a cell tower that provides service to Moscow on November 14th. He came back. But investigators do not believe the phone was in Moscow on that date. Really? The phone is not connected to any towers that provide service to Moscow since then. I actually read that he had gone back. Based on my training experience and the facts of this investigation thus far, I believe that Kohberger, the user of 8458 phone, was likely the driver of the white Elantra that is observed departing Pullman, Washington, and that this vehicle, suspect one vehicle, additionally, the route traveled of the phone during the early morning hours of November 13th, and the lack of the phone reporting to AT&T between 2:47 and 4:48 is consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple homicide that occurred. Additional analysis of records for the phone indicated that between approximately 5:32 p.m. and 5:36 p.m., the phone utilized cellular resources that provide coverage to Johnson, Idaho. The phone then stops reporting to the network at approximately 5:36 to 8:30 p.m. That's consistent with the phone being in the area, and the phone traveled in the hours immediately following the suspected time the homicides occurred. On December 27th, Pennsylvania agents recovered the trash from the Kohberger family residence located in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. The evidence was sent to the Idaho State Lab for testing. On December 28th, 2022, the Idaho State Lab reported that a DNA profile obtained from the trash and a DNA profile obtained from the sheath of a knife identified a male as not being excluded as the biological father of the suspect profile. At least 99.9998% of the male population would be expected to be excluded from the possibility of being the suspect's biological father. Based on the above information, I am requesting an arrest warrant to be issued for Brian Kohberger for burglary at 1122 King Street and 4 counts of murder in the first degree for the murders of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. So, should they have released where they got the DNA from?
Should they have released it? Well, I don't know. This all seems a little bit jumping the gun. Like this. Well, first of all, that's super interesting to have read this. Like the way that a detective has to like write backwards about it.
And there's a lot more that I like skipped over. Yeah.
Like, here's watching or listening to this detective, spell out exactly the clues and why they mean what he means, and so the judge can be reading this and say, yep, okay, here's your warrant. I don't know. Yeah, this all feels preemptive. Like, yes, okay, as someone who studied journalism, I want every bit of information to be known to everyone. Yeah. That's my, like, I think that we should all have it in the appropriate time. Now,
right.
This is a little early. We're still, now a DA has to still convict him. Mm-hmm. I mean, yes, it very much from all of this evidence, it sounds to me as this, listener, yeah, he sounds like the guy, but he still needs to go to trial, and the whole justice process needs to happen. Releasing this is going to do what now to
I have a theory. Everything you said is perfectly exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm conflicted. I would like to know information, and I also don't want the case to be compromised in any way. I think we should, get to hear and know things that aren't, and maybe we don't know. Maybe there are things that we don't know that would really compromise the case. This is just the affidavit to get a warrant.
Right.
What Detective Hankey was saying to me was people came down. He was just very upset how people were roasting the Moscow Police Department. Mm-hmm. It's a small police department, but they immediately called in the Idaho State Police and the FBI. They knew it was too big for them.
Oh, okay.
But they still did a lot of the footwork.
Sure.
And, I understand why Kaylee Gonsalves' dad was so, angry at the police department. He said they mm-hmm. messed up 1 million times is what he said. 7 weeks later, 7 weeks after a quadruple homicide with seemingly no connection
Sure.
to the person accused.
Right.
Pretty fucking great police work.
I mean, and some of it seemed to me to be so thin. I mean, you were talking about the car, and he talks about the photograph of the car and identifying it as a Hyundai Elantra, between this year and this year, and then expand it to these other years, because we saw the photo of the video, we saw the still shot. It looked like a blurry white dot to me. Like, how do you?
Oh, I didn't think so. Maybe it was
the one from the convenience store. I mean, it looks like a sedan, but how can you?
Because they have lots of other video.
Oh, okay, sure, but I mean, I'm praising the ability to look at that and say,
oh, I thought you were doing the opposite.
No. I'm saying,
oh, okay.
How do you look at that blurry dot and say, okay, well, that's a 2011 to 20, Elantra. Like, it just looks like a white sedan to me. Like, how can you?
Because
I mean, every white
study,
right,
and you can tell any model,
and that's amazing.
I
like,
love
that's cool.
It's a gift, and I love old muscle cars. And my male friends, I'll be like, "What is that?" And they'll be like, "Oh, it's a 65 and a half Mustang." Like, whatever year they made the half,
Sure.
They did. I'm not kidding. There was a Mustang that was like a half, 64 or 65. I can't remember. But and I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, an encyclopedic, mind.
Yeah, because the taillights look this way, and the side panel has a, inline this way.
Yeah.
Which, to know all of the cars ever like that, that's amazing. That's some intense.
It is.
Whoever that particular guy,
the FBI,
that's looking at that guy needs to be praised. Like, that's awesome.
That's what I'm saying. All of them need to be praised. All of them.
I mean, and that's one little detail. So all the way through,
right?
Yeah, that's incredible. For 7 weeks later,
right?
That's amazing.
I hope that Kaylee's dad backs his opinion up, and maybe he won't. I wish he would.
Sure.
Because it took a lot of people working a lot of hours to compile all of this enough. You can't just go to a judge and go, I think this guy did it. You have to really show why. And especially, he was not one of the girls' boyfriends. He was not in their classes. He didn't go to their college. There were no connections.
Yeah.
But he had stalked the house due to previous cell phone records for a long time.
And who's looking at the record of the cell phone tower line by line to match it up?
And there's actually a map. This is
cool
not
too.
A visual thing, but there's a map that shows his routes, all of his routes, little dots.
Yeah.
So it's an extensive amount of work just to get,
Yeah, that's amazing. I also, this is the father of a daughter who's just been murdered. Like, I get it. You want justice
the best people
now, and you want your daughter back. You want it to not have happened.
So I can tell you that Detective Hankey was disappointed that they released that the sheath had DNA on it that matched, to a very large degree.
Oh, okay.
And that's when he was like, the press, the public don't need to know everything. They don't need to know everything.
Sure.
I believe, and I could be wrong, and part of this was redacted, which, poor Matt had to edit out, where I was like, what's happening? I believe they released it to get the public and the press off their backs.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong, but that's exactly why I think it's like, can you see what we've been doing?
Here's a tip. Yeah.
And what Rich said to me is, he's like, at least hopefully people will understand the cops know what they're doing, and it's a methodical step-by-step investigation. And you can't just, that guy did it. He has a white car and he lives within 10 miles. And so Brian Kohberger, in my mind, did everything wrong. If he is such a smart young man who studied, iCloud-based forensics, he fucked up.
Sure.
He is caught in so many, and there's probably places that we don't even know he's been caught on camera,
right?
Because they aren't releasing everything. A lot of it is redacted.
Right.
You know, it's ridiculous. You turn your phone off, you leave your apartment, you turn your phone off, and then you turn it back on. You look like you did it, even if you didn't do it.
Sure. No.
It's a ridiculous. He really fucked up. It's another case, I guess, of a complete sociopath thinking they're smarter than everyone else in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he thought, you know, it would kill me if he thought this was an experiment for his college career. It would kill me, but that might be what he thought. Like, can I get away with it? And he found out 7 weeks later, no.
Mm-mm.
So I'm going to see if I can find this picture. I just want to show you, because the fact that you totally picked up Vans within a heartbeat, and this is black and white, but I just want you to look at these. Now, granted, there's some difference in, it's black and white, and there's difference in tone, but I want you to look, and what they did in Newsweek was, I thought, a very interesting thing, because I think was it Time or Newsweek? It was Time that O.J. Simpson was on the cover, and they were accused of blackening it to make him look like, more guilty.
Sure.
So here's a picture of Brian Kohberger, and here's a picture of Carrie Rawson, and they're very close up. And she's talking about, please don't prosecute the family. Mm-hmm. I'd like you to just look at both of their eyes.
Oh, man.
Like, look at his eyes and look at her eyes.
Yeah. The that old, like, Predator
mm-hmm.
tight set
mm-hmm.
and Prey, like, she's so
mm-hmm.
doe-like, and yeah.
I feel like you look in her eyes and you can see compassion and pain. Absolutely. And you look in his eyes and you see almost nothing.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that they put their pictures next to each other, like a compare and contrast.
Sure.
I was fascinated by it. And I guess because I know that she's such a sweet person.
Totally.
Who's been through the shit, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And, dude looks creepy. I mean,
he does. There's just no other word, is
presumed innocence still, even after you read all of that. But dude.
So I would love to know what the Tipsters think, because I'm conflicted on how much should have been released and how much was released. And who knows, maybe there's a lot more we don't know about.
Sure.
But I would love to know what the Tipsters think. And if you have anything you want to talk to us about, you can call us at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837. You can email us at jttipsters@gmail.com. You can find us on any of the social media platforms, just the Tipsters Facebook page, at JT Tipsters on Instagram, at JT Tipsters Pod on Twitter, and more cowbell.
If you would like to support this podcast and get early access and other cool murderous swag, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.